The alien ship moved through space like a silver fish, swimming through dark water. Inside the ship, Admiral Kethvar looked at the blue and green planet below, Earth. The third planet from the yellow star called Sul. His people had been watching this world for 3 years now. Kethvar was tall and thin, with blue skin that glowed softly in the ship's light. His large black eyes could see things that human eyes could not. He was from a race called the Zephyrians. They had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. "Sir, we are picking up new signals from the planet," said his aide, a young Zephyrian named Torval. Kethvar turned to look at the screens. Numbers and symbols moved across them. The humans were sending radio waves into space. Some were music, some were voices talking, some were pictures that moved. "They are still very young," Kethvar said. "Look at their ships." On another screen, he could see human space vessels near the planet. They were made of metal and moved slowly. They looked like boxes with engines stuck on the back. Compared to the smooth crystal ships of the Zephyrians, they looked like toys made by children. Far away from the alien watchers, Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship. The New Horizon was one of Earth's newest ships. It could travel faster than light, but just barely. Jake was proud of his ship, even if it looked ugly compared to the sleek fighters he had seen in movies. "Captain, I'm getting something strange." "On the radio," said Lieutenant Amy Foster. She was young and smart, with red hair that she kept tied back. "It's not coming from Earth or any of our other ships." Jake walked over to her station. "What kind of signal?" "It's like math problems," Amy said. "Numbers in a pattern, like someone is trying to teach us how to count." Jake felt his heart beat faster. For years, people had wondered if there was life on other worlds. Now it seemed like someone was trying to talk to them. "Can you send something back?" Jake asked. Amy's fingers moved over her controls. She sent back the same number pattern, but added the next numbers in the series. If someone was teaching them to count, she would show them that humans could learn. Minutes passed. Then the alien signal came back. This time it was more complex. It showed simple math, addition, subtraction, then pictures, a circle, a square, a triangle. On the Zephyrian ship. Torval was excited. "Sir, they answered. The humans sent back the right numbers." Kethvar nodded. He had expected this. Most races that reached space could do basic math. "Send them the next lesson." For hours, the two ships talked to each other with numbers and pictures. The humans learned fast. Soon they were sharing information about their planet. The number of moons. The length of their day. Simple facts that any child would know. But Jake Morrison was no child. He was a trained military officer. While Amy worked on the alien math, Jake studied the signals themselves. Where were they coming from? How strong were they? What could they tell him about the alien ship? What Jake found worried him. The signals were coming from beyond the orbit of Neptune. That meant the alien ship was very far away. But the signals were still strong and clear. That meant the aliens had very powerful transmitters, much more powerful than anything humans had built. Jake called Earth Command. "We have made contact with an alien ship," he reported. "They seem friendly, but their technology is far ahead of ours." On Earth, President Marcus Webb got the news in his office in Washington. He was a big man with gray hair and worry lines around his eyes. Leading the world was hard work, and now he had to deal with aliens, too. "How advanced are they?" President Webb asked his science advisor, Dr. Helen Wright. "From what we can tell, very advanced," Dr. Wright said. She was a small woman with glasses and a sharp mind. "Their ship is at least 1 kilometer long. It moves without any heat signature we can detect, and they reached our system without us seeing them arrive." President Webb rubbed his temples. "What do they want?" "We think they just want to talk," Dr. Wright said. "All their signals have been peaceful, math and science. Nothing that looks like threats or demands. Back in space, the conversation between humans and aliens continued. The Zephyrians sent pictures of their star system. It had 7 planets, 3 of them with life. The humans sent back pictures of Earth and its moon. Admiral Kethvar was pleased. The humans seemed smart and peaceful. They would make good junior partners in the Galactic Confederacy. Most new races needed centuries to develop proper space travel. The humans had done it in less than 100 years. That was impressive, even if their ships were crude. "Prepare a diplomatic message," Kethvar told his crew. "Tell them we want to meet in person." The message went out. It included pictures of Zephyrian beings and their ships. It showed a meeting place near Earth's moon. It was all very official and polite. On the new horizon, Amy Foster translated the message. "Captain, they want to meet face to face. They're sending a ship to lunar orbit." Jake looked at the pictures of the aliens. They looked peaceful enough, tall and thin with big eyes and blue skin, but their ship in the pictures was huge and beautiful. It looked like it was made of living crystal. "Tell Earth Command," Jake said. "This is bigger than we can handle." Dr. Wright was already preparing Earth's response. She would lead the human team to meet the aliens. It would be the most important meeting in human history. But as she prepared, Dr. Wright thought about the alien ship. So advanced, so powerful, so far beyond human technology. The aliens seemed friendly now, but what if they changed their minds? What if other aliens were not so nice? She made a note to talk to the military leaders. Earth might need better defenses. Soon. Neither Dr. Wright nor Admiral Kethvar knew that they were both right to be concerned. Other alien races had also noticed the signals between Earth and the Zephyrian ship, and not all of them were friendly. In the dark between the stars, ships began to move toward the small yellow star and its 3rd planet. Some came to watch. Others came to conquer. The age of Earth's isolation was ending, whether humanity was ready or not. 3 months had passed since first contact with the Zephyrians. The meeting near Earth's moon had gone well. Dr. Helen Wright had shaken hands with Admiral Kethvar in a moment that was watched by billions of humans on television. The aliens were friendly and seemed genuinely interested in peaceful trade and knowledge sharing. But now something else was coming to Earth's solar system. Something much less friendly. General Zax Thule of the Korath Empire stood 8 feet tall and was covered in dark green scales. His red eyes glowed as he looked at the tactical display showing Earth's defenses. 12 Korath warships hung in space at the edge of the solar system, each one designed to destroy planets. "These humans are pathetic," General Zax Thule said to his officers. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. "Look at their ships. Metal boxes powered by primitive fusion reactors. They have maybe 30 vessels in their entire system." The Korath had been watching Earth too, but unlike the peaceful Zephyrians, they saw opportunity. The humans had something valuable. A whole planet full of resources and billions of workers. The Korath Empire always needed more of both. "Sir, should we demand their surrender now?" asked Captain Mordock, Zax Thule's second in command. "Send the message," Zax Thule ordered. "Tell them they have 1 hour to give up their planet, or we will take it by force." Light years away, the message reached Earth's defense networks. In the command center, buried deep under Colorado, Lieutenant Colonel Lisa Hayes read the alien transmission with growing alarm. The translation was clear enough: surrender or die. Lisa was a career military officer with short blonde hair and steel in her backbone. She had trained for alien invasion scenarios, but always hoped they would never be needed. Now 12 alien warships sat at the edge of their solar system, each one larger than anything in Earth's fleet. "Get me President Webb," Lisa ordered, "and patch me through to Admiral Sullivan at Space Defense Command." On his ship near Jupiter, Captain Ryan Blake got the alert too. The Guardian's Edge was a small frigate, built for patrol duties and rescue missions. Ryan and his crew of 50 were brave, but they were no match for alien warships designed to destroy worlds. "Captain, we're getting movement from those alien ships," reported his sensor officer, Ensign Carl Dixon. "They're heading toward the inner system." Ryan looked at his tactical display. 5 human ships were scattered across the outer solar system. Against 12 alien vessels, they had no chance at all. But orders were orders. "All ships, this is Captain Blake," he broadcast to the other human vessels. "Begin evacuation procedures for the outer colonies. Make it look like we're running scared." That was the plan. Make the aliens think humans were weak and panicked. Let them get overconfident. It was a dangerous game, but it might buy Earth the time it needed. On the Korath flagship, General Zax Thul watched with satisfaction as human ships began fleeing toward the inner planets. Large transport vessels emerged from asteroid mining stations and moon bases packed with civilian refugees. It was exactly what Korath intelligence had predicted. "Humans are herd animals," Zax Thul told his officers. "When threatened, they run to protect their young. This will be easier than conquering the Deltari homeworld." The Korath ships moved deeper into the solar system. Their sensors detected no hidden weapons, no secret defensive platforms, no sign that humans possessed anything more dangerous than chemical rockets and simple lasers. It would be a massacre. But the Korath sensors could not detect everything. Deep beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean, Commander Paul Rodriguez received a message that made his hands shake. 3 simple words: "Authorized Titan Protocol." Paul had hoped he would never see those words. For 15 years, he had commanded the most secret facility on Earth, a place that officially did not exist, a project that had consumed the resources of nations and the minds of the brightest scientists humanity had ever produced. "Sir, are you certain?" asked his executive officer, Major Jennifer Walsh. She was one of only a dozen people who knew the truth about what lay hidden in the depths below. Paul entered his authorization codes. Around the world, 5 other commanders did the same. Deep beneath the ocean floor, massive systems began to wake up, systems that had been sleeping for decades, waiting for this moment. The Leviathan was not like other ships. It had not been built in any shipyard that appeared on any map. The materials in its hull came from experiments that pushed the boundaries of physics. The power source at its heart used principles that human scientists barely understood. As the Korath fleet approached Mars, Admiral Kethvar watched from his science vessel with growing concern. The Zephyrian ship stayed carefully neutral, but Kethvar genuinely liked the humans. They were young and eager to learn. They did not deserve to be conquered by the brutal Korath Empire. "Can we help them?" asked Torval. Kethvar shook his head sadly. "Galactic law forbids interference in conflicts between member species and non-members. We can only observe." On Earth, President Webb sat in the White House Situation Room with his top advisors. The screens showed the approaching alien fleet, now past Mars and heading for Earth. His military leaders had asked for one thing: permission to reveal humanity's greatest secret. "Mr. President," said Admiral Kate Sullivan, "it's time." Webb looked around the table at the faces of men and women who had carried this burden for years. The secret of what humanity had really accomplished in the depths of Earth's oceans, technology that even they did not fully understand. "Do it," Webb said quietly. Across the globe, seismic stations detected massive disturbances in the Pacific Ocean. Something huge was rising from the deepest trenches, displacing water on a scale that should have been impossible. Satellites tracked a thermal anomaly moving upward through miles of water. Captain Ryan Blake saw it first on his long-range sensors, a contact so large that his computer rejected it as a sensor error. Something 15 kilometers long was rising from Earth's oceans and heading toward space. "What in God's name is that?" whispered Ensign Dixon. Ryan could only stare at his displays. In all his years of service, through all the briefings about Earth's defenses, No one had ever mentioned anything like what he was seeing. The human fleet apparently had a secret that even most of the military did not know. General Zaxthul's triumph turned to confusion as his sensors detected the massive object leaving Earth's atmosphere. At first, he thought it was a moon that had somehow broken orbit. Then his tactical computer finished its analysis. It was a ship larger than anything in the Korath databases, larger than the greatest vessels of the ancient Vorthon Empire. Larger than anything that should be able to fly. How did they hide something that big? Demanded Captain Mordak. Zaxthul had no answer. His intelligence reports had been complete. They had monitored every human shipyard, every construction facility, every space dock. There was no place humans could have built such a vessel, but there it was, moving through space without any visible propulsion, accelerating at rates that should have turned any crew inside to liquid. The hull seemed to bend light around it, making accurate sensor readings impossible. For the first time in his military career, General Zaxthul felt doubt creeping into his mind. The humans were supposed to be primitives with crude technology. They were not supposed to have ships that defied the laws of physics. On the bridge of the massive vessel, Captain Scott Davis looked out at space through viewports that spanned nearly a kilometer. His ship was so large that it had its own weather systems inside. Cities could have fit in its cargo bays. "All stations report ready, Captain," said his first officer, Commander Angela Moore. Scott nodded. Around him, thousands of crew members, prepared for humanity's first real demonstration of power. They had trained for this moment, but hoped it would never come. "Open a channel to the Korath fleet," Scott ordered. His voice would carry across space with perfect clarity, transmitted by technology that the aliens could not understand. The age of humanity hiding its true nature was about to end, whether they were ready or not. The Leviathan moved through space like a mountain that had learned to fly. Captain Scott Davis stood on the command bridge, looking out at stars that seemed close enough to touch. The ship was so massive that its bridge alone was larger than most space stations. Windows stretched across nearly a kilometer of the front hull, giving a view of space that took the breath away. Scott was 45 years old, with gray starting to show in his dark hair. He had been chosen to command this vessel after 20 years of service in the regular fleet. But nothing in his experience had prepared him for this moment. The Leviathan was not just a ship. It was humanity's greatest achievement and deepest secret. "Captain, all departments report ready," said Commander Angela Moore. She was his second in command, a brilliant engineer who understood the ship's systems, better than anyone except the scientists who had designed them. Scott nodded and activated the main communication system. His voice would reach not just the Korath fleet, but every ship and station in the solar system. When he spoke, it would mark the end of an era. Humanity could no longer pretend to be weak. "Korath vessels, this is Captain Scott Davis of the Earth defense ship Leviathan. You have entered our system with hostile intent. You have one chance to withdraw peacefully." On the Korath flagship, General Zaxthul stared at his main screen. The human ship filled the display, so large that his sensors could not capture it, all in one image. The readings made no sense. The vessel's mass was impossible. Its hull materials did not match anything in Korath databases, and it moved without any detectable propulsion system. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked Captain Mordak. For the first time, uncertainty crept into his voice. Zaxthul's red eyes burned with anger and fear. He had come here expecting an easy conquest. Now he faced something that challenged everything he knew about space warfare. But the Korath Empire did not retreat. "Ever! All ships, attack formation," Zaxthul ordered. "Target that vessel with everything we have." The 12 Korath warships spread out across space, their weapons powering up. Each ship carried enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. Plasma cannons that could melt mountains charged with deadly energy. Particle beams that could slice through solid metal like butter locked onto the massive human ship. On his small frigate, Captain Ryan Blake watched in amazement and terror. The alien weapons were designed to destroy worlds. Even if the huge human ship had thick armor, it could not possibly survive what was coming. "Should we retreat, Captain?" asked Ensign Dixon. Ryan shook his head. "Hold position. If that monster can't stop them, we're all dead anyway." The Korath fleet fired as one. Streams of plasma and particle beams lanced across space, each weapon carrying enough power to vaporize a city. The combined firepower could have boiled away Earth's oceans or shattered its moon into dust. The weapons struck the Leviathan's hull and simply vanished. There was no explosion, no flash of light, no sign that the ship had been hit at all. The deadly energy just disappeared, as if it had never existed. On the Leviathan's bridge, Dr. Nathan Price monitored the defensive systems with calm professionalism. He was the ship's chief science officer, a thin man with thick glasses who had spent 15 years working on technologies that most people would call impossible. "Captain, defensive matrices absorbed all incoming energy," he reported. "We're actually showing a slight increase in available power." Scott allowed himself a small smile. The Korath had just refueled his ship with their attack. The energy absorption systems were working exactly as designed, converting hostile fire into useful power for the Leviathan systems. General Zax Thul watched his fleet's attack disappear into the human ship with growing horror. His most powerful weapons had had no effect at all. The massive vessel hung in space as if nothing had happened. "Fire again!" he screamed. "All weapons, continuous bombardment!" The Korath ships unleashed everything they had. Wave after wave of deadly energy struck the Leviathan. Missiles with nuclear warheads exploded against its hull. Gravity weapons tried to tear it apart. Nothing worked. The human ship absorbed it all like a hungry beast feeding on the attack. Commander Angela Moore checked her engineering displays. "Captain, we've absorbed enough energy to power the ship for 6 months. Should I activate response protocols?" Scott considered his options. The Leviathan could destroy the entire Korath fleet without breaking a sweat. But Earth's leaders wanted to send a message, not start a war. The aliens needed to understand that humanity was not weak, but also not needlessly violent. "Activate minimal response," Scott ordered. "Disable their weapons only." Angela's fingers moved across her control panel. Deep in the Leviathan's hull, systems that bent the laws of physics came online. The ship's power core, which used principles that human science barely understood, fed energy into weapons that existed in multiple dimensions at once. A pulse of energy spread out from the Leviathan. It was invisible to most sensors, moving faster than light itself. The pulse washed over the Korath fleet like a gentle wave. Every weapon system on every Korath ship died instantly, not just powered down, not just damaged, completely dead, as if they had never existed. Plasma cannons that had fired moments before became solid chunks of useless metal. Particle beam emitters turned into empty tubes. Even the nuclear warheads in their missiles became inert. What happened? General Zax Thul demanded, staring at control panels that showed red warning lights across his entire ship. "Sir, all weapons are offline," reported his weapons officer. "No, sir, they're not offline. They're gone. The focusing crystals in the plasma cannons have become ordinary rock. The particle accelerators have lost all their magnetic fields. Even our backup systems are dead." Zax Thul felt ice form in his blood. A technology that could selectively destroy only weapons while leaving life support and engines untouched was beyond anything the Korath Empire possessed. It was beyond anything any known species possessed. On the Zephyrian science vessel, Admiral Kethvar watched the display with stunned amazement. His sensors were among the best in the galaxy, but they could barely track what the human ship had done. The pulse of energy had somehow rewritten the atomic structure of the Korath weapons while leaving everything else untouched. "Sir, this technology." Torval's voice trailed off. "I know," Kethvar said quietly. We need to contact the Confederacy Council immediately. Our entire understanding of human capabilities was wrong. The Leviathan was not finished with its demonstration. Commander Rodriguez activated the ship's spatial manipulation systems. Around the Korath fleet, space itself began to change. The fabric of reality rippled like water disturbed by a stone. The 12 alien warships found themselves gently but irresistibly moved through space. No tractor beams grabbed them. No force pushed against their hulls. Space itself carried them to a new position, closer to the edge of the solar system. General Zaxthul felt his ship moving and knew his engines were not running. They were being relocated by forces he could not understand, handled like toys by a technology that treated the laws of physics as suggestions rather than rules. Captain Scott Davis opened the communication channel again. His voice was calm and reasonable, the tone of someone discussing the weather rather than demonstrating power that could reshape reality. General Zaxthul, your weapons have been permanently disabled, but your life support and propulsion systems remain functional. You have 12 hours to leave our system. Any return with hostile intent will result in consequences we would prefer not to demonstrate. The transmission ended. The Leviathan hung in space, a 15-kilometer reminder that humanity was not what it appeared to be. The ship that had seemed impossible was real. The technology that defied understanding was working perfectly. Throughout the galaxy, other species monitored the encounter through various means. Spy satellites and long-range. Sensors carried the news across light years. The humans, who had seemed so primitive and harmless, had just demonstrated capabilities that challenged the established order of galactic civilization. Ancient races that had considered themselves the masters of space suddenly found their assumptions crumbling. Species that had dismissed humanity as irrelevant now demanded emergency briefings from their intelligence services. The age of humanity as a minor player in galactic affairs was over. The question now was what would come next. The silence that followed the Leviathan's demonstration stretched across the solar system like a heavy blanket. For long minutes, no one spoke. No ships moved. Even the background chatter of radio signals seemed muted, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. General Zaxthul sat in his command chair, staring at displays that showed his fleet's complete helplessness. 12 of the most powerful warships in the Korath Empire floated in space like broken toys. Their weapons were gone, not damaged or destroyed, but simply erased from existence. "Sir, what are your orders?" Captain Mordak asked quietly. Zaxthul wanted to order another attack, but with what? His ship still had engines and shields, but no way to fight back. The human vessel had demonstrated technology so advanced that it might as well have been magic. "Status report," Zaxthul said finally. "All weapon systems across the fleet are completely inoperative," reported his tactical officer. "The energy patterns used to disable them are unlike anything in our databases. Our engineers believe the humans somehow changed the basic structure of our weapons at the atomic level." Zaxthul closed his eyes. In his long military career, he had conquered 17 star systems and defeated dozens of enemy fleets. Never had he faced an opponent with such overwhelming technological superiority. On the Leviathan, Captain Scott Davis walked through corridors that stretched for kilometers. The ship was so large that it had multiple climate zones, its own weather patterns, and transportation systems to move between sections. Teams of engineers monitored systems that most humans could not even pronounce, let alone understand. "Captain, we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy," reported Communications Officer Lieutenant Brian Carter. "Everyone wants to know what just happened here." Scott was not surprised. The Leviathan's demonstration had been monitored by spy satellites and long-range sensors belonging to dozens of different species. By now, every major government in the galaxy knew that humanity possessed technology far beyond what they had revealed. "Any response from the Korath fleet?" Scott asked. "No, sir. They're just sitting there. Our sensors show they're running diagnostics. on their systems, but they haven't moved or transmitted anything. Scott nodded. The demonstration had achieved its purpose. The Korath now understood that attacking Earth would be suicide, but he knew this was just the beginning. Other species would want to test humanity's resolve to see if the Leviathan was alone or if there were more surprises hidden in the Sol system. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his science vessel, watching the massive human ship with instruments that had been designed to analyze any known technology. The results made no sense. The Leviathan's hull appeared to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Its power source showed energy readings that violated several fundamental laws of physics. "Sir, we need to report this to the Confederacy Council," Torval said. "Our entire first contact protocol was based on wrong assumptions." Kethvar agreed. The Zephyrian Confederacy prided itself on being able to accurately assess other species' capabilities. They had watched humanity for years and concluded that humans were a young race with primitive technology. That assessment had been catastrophically wrong. "Prepare a priority transmission to the homeworld," Kethvar ordered. "Tell them we need to completely revise our evaluation of human capabilities and recommend that we offer them full membership in the Confederacy immediately." The transmission would take days to reach Zephyrian space, but Kethvar knew it would cause chaos when it arrived. The Confederacy had never offered immediate full membership to a newly contacted species. Such an offer was usually reserved for civilizations with thousands of years of spaceflight experience. On Earth, President Webb sat in the Situation Room watching feeds from space. The massive bulk of the Leviathan dominated the screens, a reminder of humanity's greatest achievement and most closely guarded secret. "Mr. President, we're getting communications requests from every major government on Earth," reported his chief of staff. "They all want to know where that ship came from." Webb rubbed his temples. For 30 years, the Titan project had been hidden from most of Earth's own governments. Only the leaders of the major powers had known about the massive construction effort hidden beneath the Pacific Ocean. Now the secret was out, and there would be consequences. "Set up a closed session with the Security Council," Webb ordered. "It's time to read everyone in on what we've really been doing." Deep beneath the ocean, Commander Paul Rodriguez monitored the Leviathan systems from his hidden control center. Banks of computers tracked every aspect of the massive ship's performance, analyzing data that would keep scientists busy for decades. "Sir, all systems are performing within normal parameters," reported Major Jennifer Walsh. "The energy absorption. Matrices handled the Korath attack without any strain. The spatial manipulation system worked perfectly." Paul nodded, but he was worried. The Leviathan was humanity's first attempt at building technology they barely understood. The ship's power core used principles discovered in experiments that had produced results the scientists could not explain. They knew the technology worked, but not exactly why. "What's our power status?" Paul asked. "Actually higher than when we started," Jennifer replied. "The Korath attack fed enough energy into our systems to run the ship for months." That was both good news and bad news. Good, because it proved the defensive systems worked as designed. Bad, because it meant any alien species that attacked Earth would only make humanity's ships stronger. In space, the Korath fleet remained motionless. General Zax Thule had finally accepted the reality of his situation. His invasion force had become a collection of helpless targets. The humans could destroy his ships at any time, but they had chosen mercy instead. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel," reported his communications officer. "Put it through," Zax Thule said. Captain Scott Davis appeared on the main screen. He looked calm and professional, not like someone who had just demonstrated world-destroying power. "General Zax Thule, you have 6 hours remaining to leave our system," Scott said. "I want to make something clear. The Leviathan is not Earth's only defensive asset. If the Korath Empire returns with a larger fleet, you will face consequences that make today's demonstration look gentle." The transmission ended. Zax Thul stared at the blank screen, processing the implications. The humans were telling him that they had more ships like the Leviathan, more vessels with impossible technology and unlimited power. "Prepare the fleet for departure," Zax Thul ordered quietly. "Sir." Captain Mordak looked surprised. "We're leaving," Zax Thul said. "Send a message to Empire Command. Tell them the human system is to be avoided at all costs. Mark it as forbidden space." It was the first time in Korath history that an invasion fleet had retreated without firing a shot. Across the galaxy, the news spread through communication networks and trade routes. Humanity, the species that had seemed so young and primitive, possessed technology that could disable entire fleets without destroying them, ships that could manipulate space itself, weapons that could selectively destroy enemy systems while leaving crew members unharmed. Ancient species that had considered themselves the apex of galactic civilization suddenly found themselves reconsidering their place in the cosmic order. The quiet newcomers from the Sol system had just announced themselves as a major power, and they had done it with a demonstration of restraint that was somehow more frightening than any act of destruction. On the Leviathan, Captain Scott Davis prepared for the journey back to Earth's hidden docking facility. The ship had revealed itself to save humanity from conquest, but that revelation would change everything. Earth could no longer pretend to be weak and harmless. The age of humanity hiding in the shadows was over. Now they would have to deal with the consequences of being recognized as a major power in a galaxy full of ancient and sometimes hostile civilizations. But at least they would face those consequences from a position of strength. The silence began 12 hours after the Korath fleet limped away from the Sol system. Across the galaxy, something unprecedented happened. For the first time in recorded history, every major communication network went quiet at the same time. On Korath Prime, the Empire's capital world, Emperor Vashitar read General Zax Thul's report for the third time. The words did not change. His most powerful invasion fleet had been defeated without firing a single effective shot. Worse, they had been defeated by a species the Empire had dismissed as primitive weaklings. "This cannot be accurate," the Emperor said to his advisors. "No species develops such technology in secret. Our intelligence networks would have detected it, but the evidence was impossible to ignore. Sensor recordings from the battle showed weapons that violated known physics. Ships so large it defied engineering principles. Technology that could selectively destroy enemy systems while leaving everything else untouched. "Your Majesty, what are your orders?" asked the Minister of War. Emperor Vashitar closed his eyes. The Korath Empire was built on conquest and strength. For the first time in centuries, they had encountered a species they could not defeat. "Seal our borders," he said quietly. "No ships approach the human system. Mark it as forbidden territory." Similar scenes played out across dozens of worlds. The Vorthan Republic, ancient masters of space warfare, held emergency sessions to analyze the human demonstration. The Crystalline Collective, beings of pure energy who had considered themselves beyond physical threats, reconsidered their assumptions about material technology. On the Zephyrian homeworld, the Confederacy Council gathered in their crystal chamber, overlooking the purple seas. Admiral Kethvar's report had reached them, and the implications were staggering. "The humans hid this level of technology for decades," said Counselor Nethera. "What else might they be hiding? More importantly," added Counselor Veltar, "how did they develop it so quickly? Most species take millennia to progress from basic spaceflight to reality manipulation." The Council faced an unprecedented decision. They had never offered immediate full membership to a newly contacted species. But the humans were clearly not a typical newly contacted species. "We must make the offer," said the High Counselor. "Better to have them as full partners than as unknown variables." On Earth, President Webb addressed a joint session of world leaders in the United Nations building. For the first time in history, every major government had representatives present, either in person or by secure video link. "The cat is out of the bag," Webb said simply. "For 30 years, we've been preparing for this day, the day when humanity could no longer hide what we've become." The questions came fast and angry. Why had some governments been excluded from the project? How much had it cost? What other secrets were hidden from Earth's own people? The Titan project required resources from multiple nations, Webb explained. The technology came from experiments that most people would consider impossible. We kept it secret because we needed time to understand it ourselves. Dr. Helen Wright stood up to address the assembly. She had aged significantly in the months since first contact, the stress of keeping humanity's secrets weighing heavily on her shoulders. "We discovered the basic principles by accident," she said. "A physics experiment in 2157 produced results that contradicted everything we thought we knew about reality. It took us 20 years just to understand what we had found." She activated a holographic display showing complex mathematical equations that hurt to look at directly. "The technology doesn't just bend the laws of physics," she continued. "It operates from principles that exist outside our normal understanding of space and time. We built the Leviathan using these principles, but we still don't fully understand how it works." Admiral Kate Sullivan took over the briefing. "The ship is not just a weapon. It's proof that humanity has capabilities we're still discovering. But with great power comes great responsibility." Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, the Leviathan rested in its hidden dock. The massive vessel filled an artificial cavern carved from the ocean floor, its hull gleaming in the artificial light. Teams of engineers crawled over its surface, checking systems and analyzing the data from its first combat deployment. Commander Paul Rodriguez stood on an observation deck, looking down at humanity's greatest achievement. The ship was beautiful, in its own way, despite its impossible size. Curves of metal and energy formed patterns that seemed to shift and change depending on the angle of view. "Sir, we're detecting new contacts," Major Jennifer Walsh reported. "Long-range sensors show ships approaching from multiple directions." Paul was not surprised. Every major species in the galaxy would want to see the Sol system for themselves. Now, some would come as diplomats, others as potential allies. A few might come as enemies, though he doubted any would be foolish enough to attack after what happened to the Korath. "What's our status for launching again?" Paul asked. "The ship is ready, sir. All systems are functioning perfectly." Actually, better than perfectly. The energy we absorbed from the Korath attack improved our efficiency by 12%. That was another mystery. The Leviathan seemed to grow stronger when attacked, as if it learned from each encounter. The scientists had theories, but no solid explanations. Captain Scott Davis was in his quarters aboard the massive ship, writing his report on the encounter. "How do you describe using technology that shouldn't exist to defeat an enemy fleet without firing a shot? How do you explain weapons that could rewrite reality itself?" His door chimed, and Commander Angela Moore entered. She looked exhausted but satisfied. The ship's first combat test had exceeded all expectations. "Captain, we're getting requests for interviews from every major news network in human space," she said. "Also, the Zephyrians want to arrange a formal diplomatic meeting." Scott nodded. The easy part was over. Now came the hard work of figuring out humanity's place in a galaxy that suddenly saw them very differently. "What about the other projects?" Scott asked. Angela smiled. "Construction continues on schedule. Leviathan won't be alone much longer." That was humanity's next secret. The Leviathan was not unique. Deep beneath Earth's oceans and hidden in asteroid mining facilities, more Titan-class vessels were under construction. Each one incorporated lessons learned from the first ship. Each one pushed the boundaries of impossible technology even further. 3. Days after the Korath retreat, the Galactic Communication Network slowly came back online. But the traffic was different now. Diplomatic messages replaced trade negotiations. Military intelligence reports took priority over commercial shipping schedules. Everyone wanted to know the same thing. What else were the humans hiding? The answer would reshape galactic politics for generations to come. Species that had considered themselves the masters of space technology found their assumptions challenged by a race that had apparently developed reality-bending capabilities in secret. Ancient alliances shifted as governments reconsidered the balance of power. The humans had announced themselves not through conquest or threats, but through a demonstration of restraint that was somehow more impressive than any act of destruction. Dr. Elizabeth Grant, Earth's newly appointed ambassador to galactic affairs, prepared for humanity's first formal address to the representatives of dozens of alien species. Her message would be carefully crafted, but the core would be simple. Humanity sought peaceful coexistence, but would defend itself with capabilities that even they didn't fully understand. The Leviathan continued its patrol of Earth's solar system, a 15-kilometer reminder that the quiet species in the corner of the galaxy might be the most dangerous of all. Humanity had stepped onto the galactic stage not as supplicants seeking protection, but as equals who commanded respect through demonstrated power. The age of humanity as a minor species was over. The galaxy would need time to adjust to this new reality. But one thing was certain. No one would ever again make the mistake of underestimating the humans from the small yellow star. In the depths of space, construction continued on humanity's next surprises. The Leviathan was just the beginning of what Earth could accomplish when necessity forced them to reveal their true capabilities. The galaxy had learned that sometimes the most dangerous species were not the ones who announced their power, but those who kept their true capabilities hidden until the moment they were needed most.